The Basket Weaver by Jackie Summers. Art by Felicia Hoshino. Thousands of years ago, the Chumash people lived on the beautiful shores of California, and in the valley, hey, there was a young girl named Yoi. Yoi was very, very shy. She never spoke to anyone except her mother, father, or grandmother. No one knew why Yoi was so shy, and neither did she, but every day she would play alone. One morning Yoi's grandmother was sitting on the ground before the fire weaving a basket. She saw Yoi playing. Yoi smiled as grandmother waved her over to join her. Would you like to learn to make baskets? Her grandmother asked. Yoi nodded. I love baskets, she whispered. Grandmother showed Yoi how to start the basket by wrapping juncus rushes with split reeds and stitching them into a beautiful coiled base. After that, she sewed more rows of reeds to the base. Her hands moved gracefully like the wings of a bird. Yoi loved to watch her grandmother weave baskets. Yoi and grandmother began to weave baskets together every day. Yoi helped her grandmother gather and prepare the reeds. They went down to the river and pulled bundles of slim green stalks. Some they would dry in the sun until they turned brown. Others they would soak in mud, turning them black as night before setting them out to dry. Then Yoi and grandmother dipped the stiff reeds into water to soften them and wove them into baskets. One day, as Yoi came back from the river with an armful of reeds, she heard the chief telling a story to the village children. The chief was not only a wise leader, he was a great storyteller. He spoke in a strong, clear voice that rose and fell like the river's song. The children listened as he told a story Yoi knew well. Coyote, lizard, and eagle, the first creatures of the earth, decided to make a new creature called man, but they could not decide on his hands. Proud Coyote wanted man to have hands like his, the chief said. He held up his own hands and curled them as if they were sharply clawed. Lizard and eagle didn't argue, though Lizard knew Coyote was unwise. The next day, Coyote led the others to a white rock. If he stamped his paw on the rock, it would be final. Humans would have hands just like the coyote. Lizard had to do something quickly. He quickly crawled to the rock while Coyote wasn't looking and pressed his own tiny hand into the rock. Coyote was furious. But thanks to clever Lizard, we have useful hands with 5 fingers just like him. The children looked at their hands and laughed. Yoi saw how the children loved to listen to the chief. She wished she could tell stories too to make others happy, but she was afraid. She thought her voice was too quiet to be heard. Still, she wanted to share the stories of her people. Then one day she was playing with a blue feather. She had an idea. She ran to tell her plan to grandmother, who thought it was a wonderful idea. That minute they sat down and began working on a very special basket. Soon it was time for the acorn harvest. Everyone in the village came together for the festival, eating, singing, and dancing. Yoi brought her new basket along. After the feast, the chief asked if there were anyone who'd like to tell a story. Yoi stood up, clutching her basket. Everyone was surprised. The chief nodded to her and sat down, ready to listen. Yoi took a deep breath and held up her basket for all to see. On the first side of the basket, Yoi had woven a scrub jay. He was black and featherless, with his head cast down in sadness. The people murmured, impressed by her handiwork. When everyone had seen the scrub jay, she turned the basket. On the next side, the black jay was flying up to the basket's blue feathered rim, as if asking the sky for some of its color. Yoi then turned the basket again. Now the sky dropped its blue feathers down to the jay. She turned the basket once more. On the last side of the basket was the beautiful blue scrub jay, finely dressed in his sky-colored feathers. Yoi stood very still to show her story was over, and then went back to sit by her grandmother. Everyone cheered at Yoi's tale. The chief stood and said, Our village has another great storyteller. Next festival we look forward to another story from Yoi. Yoi's family hugged her proudly. Her grandmother's eyes twinkled. You found a way to tell a story without speaking a word, she said to Yoi. Your story was in the weaving of the basket. And Yoi knew that there would be plenty more stories to tell. Think about it. What does Yoi's grandmother teach her to do? How does Yoi find her voice? What lesson does Yoi teach us?